My boss said I looked too plain for clients, so I dyed my hair bright blue for work. I worked at Lux Hair Studio, a fancy salon downtown, where my manager Susan cared more about how stylists looked than how good they were. The place had marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and prices so high people joked they were paying rent for a haircut. Susan loved the girls who looked like beauty ads. Perfect blonde hair, perfect makeup, perfect clothes. Then there was me, Amber, with plain brown hair, a black uniform, and cheap shoes. Every morning Susan did a slow walk around the salon, checking us like we were being graded. She'd praise the others for looking polished, then get to me and give me a tight little nod like I was a problem she couldn't fix. At one staff meeting, she said clients paid premium prices and expected premium stylists. Then she looked right at me and said I blended into the background and that successful stylists needed presence and personality. She even suggested highlights in front of everyone. My face got hot and nobody said a word. The favoritism got worse after that. Kayla, who was gorgeous and blonde and new, got the VIP clients, the expensive color jobs, and the big tips. I got basic cuts, quick trims, and the clients people thought weren't worth much time. When someone complimented my work, Susan would jump in and talk about how well she trained me. I kept quiet because I needed the job. Then Thursday happened. My regular client, Mrs. Kim, came in for her usual appointment with me, and I was standing right there, cape in hand. Before I could greet her, Susan stepped in front of me at the desk with her fake, sweet voice. She told Mrs. Kim maybe she'd want someone more distinctive for such beautiful hair, and started calling for Kayla. Mrs. Kim looked confused and glanced at me, but the lobby was full, and I froze. Kayla gave me a guilty look and still took her to the chair. I stood there holding the cape so tight my fingers hurt. That was the moment I stopped trying to play along. All weekend I was angry, hearing Susan's voice in my head saying I needed presents. By Saturday afternoon, I drove to 3 beauty supply stores because I wanted the brightest blue dye I could find. Not dark blue, not a few highlights, loud blue. The kind of color you notice from across the street. Back in my apartment, I spread old towels everywhere and started bleaching my hair in my tiny bathroom. It took hours. My scalp stung, my sink looked like a mess, and I almost quit halfway through when I saw how wild it looked. Then I remembered Mrs. Kim getting pulled away from me and kept going. I painted on the blue, waited, rinsed, and did another layer until it was exactly the color in my head. When I finally looked in the mirror, my hair was electric blue, bright enough to stop traffic. I looked completely different, and for the first time in months, I smiled. Monday morning, I walked into Lux and the whole front desk went quiet. One stylist dropped her comb. Kayla whispered, "Oh my God." I heard Susan's heels clicking fast across the marble before I even saw her. She came out of her office, stared at me, and her face changed from shock to anger to a weird, careful look. "Amber," she said slowly, "what exactly did you do to your hair?" I smiled and said, "You told me I needed to stand out. You said I needed presence and personality, so I fixed it." For a second, she had no answer. Then the front door opened, and a young woman walked in, looked straight at me and said, "Are you taking walk-ins? I love your hair." Susan turned to her with her sales smile, but the woman said she wanted the blue-haired stylist. I took her to my chair before Susan could reroute her. An hour later, another client came in asking for the stylist with the amazing blue color. By lunch, I'd booked 3 walk-ins and 2 color consults, all from people who noticed me the second they stepped inside. People were looking at me, asking questions, and pointing at my hair while I explained color options. Susan stayed near the desk, pretending to organize appointments, but she kept watching every time someone requested me. Then Mrs. Kim came in for a touch-up. She saw me, smiled big, and said, "There you are, Amber. I was hoping I'd get you today, and I love the hair." Susan started to say something from the desk, but 2 new walk-ins came through the door, and one of them said, "Can the girl with the blue hair do mine too?" I looked at Susan while I tied Mrs. Kim's cape, and Susan just stood there, lips pressed tight, staring at a booking screen with my name all over it. Now my boss is saying I crossed a line with the blue hair. Was I wrong?